Welcome to the Real Share Daily Huddle. I'm here with one of my favorite wellness team providers, and that is Dr. Stephen Schwartz. So thank you so much for jumping on this call with us and being a regular as part of my go-to strategy for my healing journey. Mm-hmm. And it's so exciting because I feel like I'm connecting the dots with my wellness journey as well as friends of mine who I've also just worked with the California Women's Conference and all the various events. And we had Love Fest that happened May 2nd, so just a couple weeks ago. And it was awesome because we were on, and you had one of my favorites is Lauren Miller.
She's everybody's favorite.
She really is. Bald and breastless. And she literally was starstruck by you. I mean, she was just like, oh my gosh. She's texting me as I'm on the podcast saying, I've got Stephen Schwartz on my call. She goes, Michelle, do you realize that he's the one who helped me through my cancer? And it really guided me through this process.
So I haven't really spoken with her since your podcast since 2008. And a universe. So we actually had a call like a week or so later, and we're like, all right, what's been happening in our lives since 2008? You know, I mean, like everything. She, and I said to her, I was like, do you know that my clinic closed and then I launched it? Where she came in, there's so much that happened afterwards. And it was just really amazing to catch up with her. And just to speak to that, you know, I've seen so many patients over the years. I don't even know how many patients I've seen, and I've seen them get better, and sometimes they give me credit for it, sometimes they don't. And, you know, as a healer, I think it becomes kind of a thankless job. You know, people come in and you see them and you do the best you can with them and they leave, and sometimes you never hear from them again. I've been very blessed to have a really awesome community of patients that I always worked with, and that's really continued into my Vibe tribe that I'm working with now. And this pandemic time, this lockdown time that we've been having, there's been a lot of what I call life eclipses happening with people from my past and other projects where I've planted little seeds that you kind of just have moved on. And then next thing you know, they break through the ground and there's this beautiful flower there. And it's like, it's time to revisit them. And it's been very inspiring for me, actually. You know, and a lot of things have happened. So it's been my own personal journey. As much as I've helped people with their personal journey, I've been on my own personal journey. And I think that's what's so beautiful is we're all humans.
Yeah. Well, and you've been, I mean, just in the amount of time that I've known you this past year. And for me, I feel like my role is to join these superheroes that are on the planet and pull us together and talk about what's possible. And I had shared with you over the weekend when we were talking about the podcast for today and getting that going. And I'm so excited about the event that you have coming up and really talking about that and how that's just taking a life of its own. But I lost a friend this weekend who I partnered with.
Sorry to hear that.
Thank you. And I really want to say some prayers out to his family. You know, he leaves, you know, 2 small children. He had worked with me, and his name's Kotso. He had worked with me on introducing me to Dr. Joe Dispenza. If it wasn't for him, I would have never gotten a ticket. And people who know how hard it is to get his, you know, tickets into his retreats, I never would have been able to go. And not only did I go to one of them, I went to a couple, and then we started planning the four of us. So Sylvia and Sagara and I and Kotso put together a group of thought leaders, 400 of them, and just really to come together and talk about what's possible. You know, what do each of us know, and what do we don't know? And when we come together, it's this mindset of being the scientist, where it's not about I need to be first, you know, out there with my findings. It's more of this quest to figure out, you know, collectively what we know together. And I went through, I mean, literally my face is, my face is like all puffed up, and had a PET scan, which we'll talk about as well. But I had pulled up my comments that I had from Kotso, and really talked about it as you have these healers that come onto the planet, and they come in the form of not just in the form of a doctor, or I'm wearing my mama bear shirt, but they come in the form of just this humanitarian and individuals that want to be better together and really figure it out. And that's what, for me, it's just been this beautiful, beautiful journey of not really understanding, why. I mean, I'm still in shock. They had found him face down in his jacuzzi, younger than me, and so they don't know if he had a heart attack or what happened. But here I was just texting with him, talking about the real share, and I was going to have him on the show, and he wanted to listen in on the various podcasts, and he sends me an email back, and he's just like, I love what you're up to. I love what you're all about, and and we need more of this. And so I can't help but feel like the veil is very, very, very thin. And, we get to work with individuals that maybe aren't physically here with us, but also, in that next life, and that the veil is so thin. And I wanted to talk to you about that. And I was so excited to have you on the show. I mean, it was, at one point it's like, do I have it today? Do I not? I had a PET scan, which thank you for asking.
I'm surprised that you got, you were able to run your show. I mean, you have a lot happening. You had somebody close to you pass. You've done a major, diagnostic. It's a lot happening.
And I think we have a chance to show up and say, how do we want our response to be? Do we want to be in the fetal position, just crying our eyes out, which I did that all day yesterday. I did. And I think it's important to talk about that. It's important to say, you know what? Don't keep it stuck inside. I mean, release it. But I love to talk to you because I know you are an extremely spiritual individual, and what you think about this, and how do you explain this? I mean, it's there's so much going on right now. I mean, so much.
Well, we talked about this on some of your past shows. Welcome to 5D. And you're like, can you define on your past show? Can you please define 5D for me? And I've defined it every time I come on here. I'm always defining it. I'm redefining it over and over again. And for those of you that don't know what 5D, it stands for the fifth dimension. We operate in the third dimensional reality. And people say, what happened to the fourth dimension? Fourth dimension is time. And we've had these global portals, gateways that open up. They open up all the time. 9/11 was a portal. The end of the Mayan calendar was a portal. There's times when your parents die, that's a portal. So they can be very individual portals. They can be a time when you got divorced, that's a portal. It's a time when you're diagnosed with breast cancer, that's a portal. These are all doorways and gateways energetically that transform your life. But a lot of times it can be on a individual level. It can be on a global level. And what's happened, nothing in time in our modern time has seen a global portal activation than like what we're going through right now. And it's literally caused, and it's been prophesized. This is nothing new. All the New Agers have been talking about this, the age of Aquarius and ending the Piscean age and the Mayan calendar, the end of the 52,000 year cycle. And I was like, oh, look, we're still here on December 22nd, 2012. See, those guys were wrong. No, they weren't wrong. They were right. It was the end of a calendar, but it takes some time to let things kind of get some momentum and open up. And next thing you know, there's a tipping point that happens. And that's 5D. We're elevating out of this 3-dimensional space into a 5-dimensional reality. And this is where we're seeing things like your friends, and a lot of people are choosing to leave right now. And so, and that's where I'm feeling, I think it's okay. There's a lot of soul contracts that are out there. I want to share something. You told me the story about your journey with your friend. As many people as we're talking about that I've helped in their healing methods, I would like to share a relevant story that I think you would appreciate and your listeners would appreciate.
Well, and that's why I love talking with you, because you're real and you're not going to tell me something that I want to hear. I mean, it's like I just expressed, it was like my heart hurts. Like I physically, like it literally, my heart hurts right now. And I love the conversations that you and I have together. And that is, let's talk about what we know. Let's talk about explaining this, because when we do, I think that alleviates a lot of this despair that's out there. It's a lot of this unknown chaos when we can sit down and talk together and not have any judgment and just say, you know what, let's talk about this. Because I've had so many friends that have passed on recently. I mean, it is uncanny, the most I've ever had in my entire life. And I know a lot of people, and I've done some massive, massive global projects with individuals that are humanitarians that are showing up in the world, but it's hard. And I do believe that. I mean, something tells me in my gut that this is a form of us stepping into our soul contracts.
This is exactly, because between third dimension and the fifth dimension is we're raising the vibration of the planet. The planet is collectively raising. Viruses are, unless there's some kind of like biological weapon that's some kind of superhuman, super petri dish developed virus, there's a very predictable pathology of virology that exists. That's pretty simple, actually. And so when we're getting all this misinformation and things out there, and people, it kind of follows the same principles. So when we're getting one story and something doesn't match up, we're getting confused, and that's very 3D. We're very stuck in the paradigms that are collapsing all around us in the healthcare industry, in the banking industry, in the educational industry, in the money industry, banking industry. So there's all of the constructs in the religious industry, in the political industry, everything that we are all about, that we have come to know, is essentially is up for grabs as we've gone through this global portal back in March, at least in the United States, and really in 2020. So as we've been going through this, and I think that's a perfect time to really set up who I'd like to introduce on the show right now is my dear friend and Vibe Tribe member, and also my housemate. Here he is, the one and only Tsunami Diamond. And Michelle, I'd love to introduce you to a dear friend of mine. Tsunami, is it okay if I just give you a little intro?
Yeah, most definitely.
Meet you, Tsunami.
Pleasure to meet you as well, Michelle.
So Tsunami and I, we met, ironically, at an event in Los Angeles called the 5D Conference.
Of course you did.
Of course we did. And you know what? It was the funniest conference, because it was, it's always like, what are the numbers and how's there going to be people, going on, and quality over quantity. It was a funny little gathering at like some hotel, I don't even know, the Holiday Inn Hotel at the airport. And it's all tribe. I mean, even the people that didn't know anybody, by the end of those 2 days, it was super. I mean, no offense to Saeed, but it's really an amazing community that he puts together. It's just kind of funny because it's 5D, and it's all 5D people there. And we all, whether we knew each other or not, we all love each other because we're all in the same business of harmonizing humanity and raising the vibration of the planet. And I remember through a friend of a friend, I got introduced to Tsunami, and we hung out like that weekend, maybe even for a couple hours. And then we exchanged numbers. And then I think we kind of fluttered off into our worlds for many months. And then somehow we ended up kind of coming back together. He got really interested in my vibe technology. He's an amazing inventor, quantum inventor in his own right. I mean, we were just talking, we had our own huddle. We had our own little Sunday night huddle last night when I came back from my journeys down in the West, on the coast. And we were just talking. I said, how blessed do I feel to be living with an inventor and another visionary, where we can actually share information and help launch all of our projects during this time. And it's really because it's all vibrational resonance. Who are you being stuck in quarantine with? You know, are you with a lover? Are you with somebody you can't stand? Are you by yourself? Are you, who's around you at this time? And I can tell you that whatever cool stuff that I've been telling you about all these projects that Dr. Schwartz has been working on, none of them would be really getting off the ground if it wasn't for Tsunami Diamond. And so
because that says a lot about, you're talking about the person that you're cohabitating with through COVID-19.
Totally.
I mean, that is not a recommendation. I don't know what is.
Totally. Well, okay, continue.
Okay, so just out of the house, are you guys both live streaming in?
We are on two different floors.
So I can't wait to go out there, because I think you said, Stephen, that you're in Temecula. Is that where you guys are at?
Yeah.
Okay, so when we can meet up, I want to invite myself over.
Okay.
And hang out and just be with this magnificent energy, because I can already feel it. Tsunami is just this, you glow. I mean, besides the fact that you have this brilliant smile, we're getting to a place too where when you do meet with individuals, you can tell who is about showing up in love and not fear. You can tell when individuals are saying, okay, you know what, there's no accidents. I mean, we're coming together, we're collectively uniting our efforts and putting this on. And I know you guys are working on a massive, massive project, which I'm super excited to be a part of. I loved your message that you had for me, Dr. Stephen. It was like, are you in? Do you want to be a part of this? And I'm like, absolutely. Like, I am so in, because I love this type of energy, because and that's the type of energy I had with my friend Kotso. I mean, we would come together and the magic would happen. It was beautiful. So welcome.
Thank you.
Before we go that day, before Tsunami got on, we were talking about Kotso. And I would like to make one, just to kind of circle back around with that. I want what I always received. What's the word I'm looking for? I always felt comfortable. Well, that's not the right word. I would always find solace in the idea when somebody would transition out of this three-dimensional world. As I grew up as a child in the 70s, my number one role models was Luke Skywalker. And I always wanted to be a Jedi Knight. And I remember that scene when Obi-Wan Kenobi got struck down by Darth Vader.
Uh-huh.
And he was absorbed, and he knew he was more powerful as part of the Force than in his 3D spacesuit. And I feel like that's where Kotso is now. And a lot of people are leaving the three-dimensional reality because they know that they're better serving humanity free.
Yeah.
And I'm just getting goosebumps just saying that. And I really want you to connect with that feeling right now. Because here's the thing, one thing they say, what's the two things to certain in life? Death and taxes. Is that the two things? I don't know when my time is going to end. And I see people literally withering away, and they just die. They're dying. Dude, they've been dying their whole lives.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, we talked about this. I mean, I had the diagnosis where I was told I had 90 days. And I was like, okay,
wow.
that just doesn't even feel right. It doesn't even make sense. I'm like, I don't even relate to that when I'm listening to them. And it was like, okay, thank you for your opinion. But last time I checked, that's between, God and my creator. We're co-creating this piece. And it's interesting. I went into the PET scan earlier today and said a prayer, and my daughter was with me. She went, and this was the first time that they let her come in with me. They usually make anybody stay out in the waiting room. And she went in, and I just felt this sense of like relief, of just like my friend was there, my business partner. I mean, he was there, and it's coming to a place in my core of just this knowing of, along the same lines with what you said, is that they're able to serve in a capacity that really unleashes their full potential in working not only with myself and working with others, but it's this coming together. And I do believe that we are one. I believe wholeheartedly that we are all connected.
Well, I think that takes us into exactly this conversation that I wanted to invite Tsunami onto your show for, about, because he created an app for me. He's created all these different things. I had this long laundry list of stuff. And he said to me, because we basically set an intention when he invited me to come live with him and his family here in the Burbs, which is a new place for me, safe place. He said, I'm launching this event called Harmonizing Humanity. I just bought the URL, harmonizinghumanity.org. And my hashtag with Bioharmonic Technologies has been hashtag Harmonize Humanity, and it's all over my materials. And I was like, oh my God, is that available? Why don't I buy that? But he bought it, and he's been diligently building this entire foundation while doing all these other projects. And we are literally just weeks away. And I can speak about it, but really the details of the magnificence of what is really going on with this vision, I would be doing it a disservice if I didn't have Tsunami come on and actually describe it himself. So I'd love to give him some time to share this with you and your community.
Well, thank you so much. And we had talked, like I said, yesterday, and that's what you said. You said, I've got this amazing soul. I happen to live with them. That really is the cornerstone in putting this event together. And so when he said, hey, do you want to help? I've got these. I said, let's start tomorrow. Let's start, sharing with individuals. We had over 4,000 people. Dr. Schwartz was on there as well, and to Love Fest. And we had over 4,000 that attended, and it was magical. And we want more of that, and we can have that by doing exactly what you're doing. So talk to me about, well, first of all, I want to talk about your name, Tsunami. Because I say that a lot to people. I say, I feel like I'm on this tsunami, and I'm right at the very beginning. And through the real share, my job is to be able to, share with people, what's happening, what's going on. So I love your name. And especially Tsunami Diamond. How beautiful is that?
Thank you so much, Michelle. Yeah, Tsunami Diamond of Love and Light. I'm a very multifaceted being, and I have a lot of interests and loves in life. But really, my biggest goal and mission and purpose for being down here is to help humanity through this shift that we're going through now, which is really, we're living in the most awaited time of human history right now. And it's a magical time to be here. And as we see what's taking place in 2020 thus far, things are shaken up. And, ever since 2012 and the precession of the equinox, I had awakening experiences before that, but that's when I really, started fast tracking into remembering who I am, why I'm here, what my purpose of being here is. And I was actually, before that time period, I was living in Los Angeles. I was a celebrity hairstylist, fully in the fashion industry, doing runway shows and commercials and TV shows and all kinds of stuff. And at right around that time of 2012, as we hit that big, like the start of this transition that humanity started going through at that time, the end of the Mayan calendar, all these things, these prophecies that were led up to that period. I felt called that I needed to leave the fashion industry. I made a complete shift in careers, went into marketing, and then even after that period, I went through a whole nother transition and got fully into doing, this kind of work of uh, raising the consciousness of humanity. And I'm also a healer and a technology, inventor, in the energy, frequency, sound, vibration, those type of things. But really, I'm one big thing that I'm mainly focused on is how can I create things that can help the full collective? How can I, work on things of connecting the dots? Because I feel like there's so many amazing souls and amazing people that are down here that are all working on all these phenomenal projects and have all these ideas and all these pieces of the puzzle. So I feel we're now coming into this place where it's time to start connecting the dots. And, a big way is through events like this, through Harmonizing Humanity, which I feel like we were doing offline events, which we had our last one in January called the Ascended Experience. And now with these online events, I see the big potential for really connecting the dots on a global scale for all of humanity. And that's where I really love the potential of these virtual events that are now starting to come into fruition through the current situation on the planet.
Well, and so nice is that right now, and I feel like we're connecting the dots around the entire planet, whereas before it was just in our backyard. It was, what's a few miles away from us, who are our neighbors. And now, I mean, for me to be on a call with Switzerland or Africa, it's very common. I mean, I'm having calls with doctors and wellness providers and healers around the planet. And looking at really what's possible and how we're connecting these dots. And I think too, what's happening is we're finding each other.
Yes.
Exactly. And that's the best part of this whole thing. I mean, for my birthday party, I was able to have my family on there. We had people there from other countries. Nobody would come, before I would have maybe gotten a phone call or a text, or they would have said like, happy birthday on Facebook. And that was the extent of it. We're actually having a more contact globally. And, for what we're putting together for the global visionaries like Tsunami and myself and for other people, we're diligently working on 5D technologies. In fact, we only are exclusively working with 5D technologies. I'd love for you to talk about the platform that we're going to be hosting this event on.
Yeah, so we're hosting the event on a newer virtual event platform that's really set up for large scale events, as well as something that incorporates more interactive capabilities than, let's say, Zoom or some of the other platforms out there. So we can really create a virtual event that has a feeling of being in person, being able to connect with others and have those type of experiences virtually. So the platform that we're doing it on is also set up where we can have up to 1 million people at the event. So we really don't have a cap. Yeah, we don't really have very much of a cap as to how big we can make this. So we've been very busy in partnering also with other large-scale events and festivals and communities of people. So this is a co-creative experience that we're putting together with just phenomenal speakers, performers, healers, doctors, all kinds of amazing people around the world coming together for this event, that we've been really just carefully curating the lineup so that way we can really touch on all the most important aspects of what's going on the planet, where things are going, and what we need to be focusing on as we start coming together to co-create this new paradigm and start building these new systems on the planet. So, and we're also working on putting together some very powerful panels, very uniquely put together panels, where we're going to have one panel where it's just going to bring together different indigenous tribe leaders from around the world. We also have another very unique panel that we're putting together that has different people that channel different, like, galactic councils, Akashic records, all these different things, so we can kind of bring these councils together on a panel and really ask some of the biggest questions we're all wanting to know, and get some answers as far as what's the next steps, where things are going, and what we can do actively to start bringing forth this reality.
Okay, so that I'm so excited on so many levels. And, a couple things. One is my background for the last 15 years has been producing the largest women's conference in North America.
Ah.
Yeah, so we've had everything from the Dalai Lama, across the board. And we had 18,000 individuals sign up to be a speaker at the event, which is mind-blowing. That's why the Real Share came all about, because I know individuals, they have a message to share. Yes. They have a story to share. And what we were working on with Kotso is we had a place in Hawaii that was set up for 400 individuals. And they were all healers, thought leaders, humanitarians, individuals coming to the table and then talking about what's possible. And that each one of us has a piece, a spoke in the wheel, but collectively, that's when the magic really happens. Yes. And so the fact that you are putting together a platform that can support 1 million individuals is incredible. Like those are the projects that I want to spend time on, and pulling those pieces together, because I feel like that's really where the strength comes from, is us, again, collectively coming together and really having this massive splash on the planet of what is possible.
Yes,
you're exactly. You're in luck. We can if you want to get involved. You had me at Michelle, I think what it was a couple weeks ago, and it was on the call. Like, I really, if you want to be a part of this, and I think too, it's you can tell the people that really want to be a part of this and should be a part of it, because they're coming to the table not being afraid. They're excited. Like when I talk to you, Tsunami, I just feel this sense of excitement of like we're living in a time on the planet when it is the most exciting time, because we're recognizing that we're complete and whole exactly the way we are. We're not broken. And when we actively come together and we fill in these pieces and we put this piece of the puzzle together. So I refer to it, I took it off for my PET scan, but I have the flower of life. And it shows, in what I look at, is these happy cells that are around. So talk to me about this awakening, because a lot of folks right now are feeling this, and it can be a little bit scary when you are starting to feel these emotions. You're having friends, and I was telling Dr. Schwartz, I've lost some pretty amazing, powerful humans that I have been running with, for the last, several decades, and really being okay with how all of us are going to play this game of life together. And what would you say to somebody who is having these feelings? They want to participate, they want to get involved, but maybe they just don't know exactly what to do or how to do it. What would you tell them?
Yeah. I would say just follow the inner guidance for sure, because we're all guided internally by our higher self and by so many other forces, whatever you want to call it. We all have these guidances that bring us on these different paths. And something like what's going on the planet right now is it's shaking things up. So when, like, if you took a glass and there was particles at the bottom and you shake, some of them are going to float around over here, some of them are going to go over here. So in these times of great change, it's really taking, what I've been noticing is a lot of people, you know, even family members and different people that before were not open to certain things, you know, that maybe I was telling them before, are now open, you know, because of what's going on. And that's why I'm really looking and seeing all the positive out of this experience. Although, yeah, there's certain, of course, you could call negative things, but a lot of the negative things have been going on for a long time, of the real stuff that's going on behind the curtains. So the big positive is more people are becoming aware of these negative things now and are open to listen to the kind of messages that we're sharing on our channels and to the content we put out. So I feel like it's more important now than ever for us to start doing things like this, to be doing podcast episodes like this, to be doing events like that, because there's just going to be, and it's going to just keep snowballing. There's just, over time, it's almost like the awakening it comes through in phases, you know. Back in even the 60s, there were some people coming through, but it was like, oh, they're hippies, right? And then there was some other waves that came through, you know, in the 80s of the indigo children starting to come in and all that. And then now, since 2012, there was this big boom where there was a big mass of people, but it still was the minority for sure, you know. But I feel like now, coming into 2020, with what's taking place so far, it's now starting to tip the scale to the masses. So, and it's up to us, the people that already started awakening prior, to help guide them, to help be leaders, to help bring this information out, to be there as people that can answer these kind of questions that people are going to start having. Because really, we're at the beginning of even far more changes on the planet, you know. Where things are, I'm connected with lots of different sides, with both indigenous tribe leaders, but also, you know, galactics that are connected with all these star seeds that are people that are from other parts of the universe that came down onto the planet to incarnate for this time right now. And really, Earth is meant to be, it has a very big significance in the universe, in our universe here. It's a galactic hub. And these are great changes that are eventually going to come on once humanity's ready, is where, you know, aliens do exist, and we're going to eventually live in a society almost like what you would see in Star Wars or Star Trek, where there's other races of beings and you'll have the potential to go out into space to travel to another area. And we're nearing that time. So also, what that means, though, is some of these other extraterrestrials that have been around in the block for a lot longer than us. The reason why they have such advanced technologies is because they've been around for so much longer. But they also have different technologies that can benefit humanity. So once these things start taking place and true, like, first contact happens, other than, you know, with the governments and cover-ups and all that, the world's going to change greatly.
Well, and it's so fascinating too, just to look at the dynamics of people and how they're responding. And choose, am I going to go through this and struggle, or am I going to show up in love?
Yeah.
And I said that earlier, and it's fascinating. When I had my diagnosis, which was April 15th, you know, we say, you know, there's two things, death and taxes. And I was diagnosed on April 15th. And I remember, you know, being told that I had 90 days to live, you know, and you need to do the highest form of chemo. And just in my gut, what resonated was that was not what I should do. And it's so fascinating because I just, like I said, came from a PET scan, and that would be my 5th PET scan. And when I was originally diagnosed, what came over me, and I had gotten into the space of cannabis. We had individuals coming to the California Women's Conference, my largest, conference, North America's largest event, and they wanted to exhibit cannabis products at the event. And my dad was an undercover narcotic agent, for me growing up.
Okay.
Dr. Steven's laughing because it's comical. I'm the oldest, in the family, girl.
But that's a portal. See, that's the portal. That's a paradigm shift, where you didn't smoke weed. Like, it was illegal. You go to jail, but all of a sudden it's
drugs.
Yeah.
And so here I come back, Tsunami, and I end up saying to, my family, I'm going to do a cannabis protocol. So I started the cannabis protocol on Easter Sunday.
Okay.
And then 2 months later, I went in for a second PET scan, and it showed that the tumors had decreased 52%.
Wow.
On a cannabis protocol, something that people were like, what are you doing? So today, the lab technician, as he's performing the PET scan, and he says, so you haven't taken any chemo or any radiation or anything. And it's not that I was opposed to it. I just felt like there are other healthy options available on the planet right now. I have this intuitive feeling like there's got to be more out there and more available.
Well, I mean, those options are so outdated. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. And that's what I'm talking about in terms of this new portal that we're going into. Is the truth doesn't change. It never changes. So you can just kind of keep lying to yourself and lying to the people around you. But eventually it's all going to come out. And that's what's happening. Okay, boom, we have this global pandemic. What do you got? And now we're going to see, like, what do we really have to work with? And people are really realizing that there's so much more out there. And that's what's so beautiful, about this time and looking back at what's going on. I wanted to share a story, though, about my friend Chris, who I think is relevant to what you were talking about as well, too. But he was one of my dear friends from college. And he was a federal marshal, and he had a wife and a adorable little son. And first time I was the first person to ever adjusted him before. Never had any things like that, in his life before. I turned him on to holistic medicine. And, he got diagnosed with a brain tumor at 40. And I said, let's get started. I can help you with all these different things. And he said, well, I'm working with the best doctors, so we'll see, And all of a sudden I went from being his doctor to being his friend. And I watched him, and I was there. He had an amazing doctor. And he's on my YouTube channel. If you go to my Dr. Steven, if you go to Bioharmonic Technologies, put in Chris Daniels, you will see this video that came up the day after he came out of basically had a less than 5% chance of survival rate for this brain inoperable tumor surgery, that this one doctor went against the odds and went in and did an incredible job. Mm. And kudos to the medical establishment, because basically nobody would take on this case. And I was in there in the hospital room, and I got a video of it. And that's what's on my YouTube channel. And then after that point, they said, let's do radiation and chemo. And they gave him basically 2 years to live. And I just watched him get fried. They fried him. And they said, they gave him a date. They said, you'll be dead by Thanksgiving. And in Chris Daniels fashion, he was not dead on Thanksgiving. He died the day after. And it was one of the saddest days of my life, and to his family. And he chose not to go down the road that I asked him. And I chose as a doctor to be his friend, because I couldn't make him do anything. And I remember sitting with his wife. I mean, these were some really good friends of mine. These were some of my best friends. And she said, Schwartz, we just did the best we could with the information that we had. And I said, I know. And I don't have any blame or anything like that. It's sad. But, this is the point, is we're in different times now. And I'm really committed, as I know Tsunami, and I know you are, Michelle, to really being able to speak our minds. And there's not one medical doctor that I would not have a problem having a conversation with about holistic medicine. I don't care what degrees or what they've done before, because I have 20 years of clinical experience and amazing results doing what we did. And it's the same way of working with pathogens and working with this technology, and why Tsunami and I are so committed to the technologies that we're bringing out, and to this vision that we want to bring with harmonizing humanity, where we can showcase all of these technologies. And not just that, but get people dialed in on the mindset. I think that's so important. We really just want to unify I've been sitting there on social media and people saying, oh, Dr. Schwartz, whatever. And I said, I'm choosing not to watch these videos that's been taken down from YouTube about the conspiracy theory. I'm well aware. I know all that's going on. I know there's dark forces. I know there's a secret agenda. I know all of those things. I don't want to contribute to creating a dimensional reality of where those realities are crazy. You know what that's called? That's called 3D. In the new dimensional reality that I'm working toward, and you might say, oh, this is all pie in the sky. This is you're living in the clouds, Dr. Schwartz. None of this is real. It is real, because I understand physics, and I understand the subconscious mind, and I understand how to create interdimensional portals. And they're real. So people can choose where they want to fill their minds with. In fact, right before I got on this call with you, Tsunami, I really wanted Tsunami to come on, because he's got so much. Dude, we haven't even scratched on the information I wanted him to get into about harmonizing humanity. But he was like, oh, well, here's the 2-page overview. And I'm like, okay. So I started reading through it. I'm like, oh my God, I need Tsunami to come on and really get into the details, to talk about the amazing speakers and all these people coming on. But what I was where I was going when I was reading this was, at the same exact time, I got a message about some taxi driver, some Uber driver that got coronavirus, who didn't believe in coronavirus, but now his wife's about to die. And it pulled my attention into reading that. And I started reading the article. I got sucked in to 3D. And then I was like, Schwartz, snap out of it. Dude, this is not like I'm getting sucked into 3D. We're in 5D. And we're harmonizing humanity, and we're here to push the tipping point into this new dimension. Because right now, it's heavily weighed in the old world. Everybody's waiting to, quote unquote, go back to normal. Tsunami and I, and harmonizing humanity, and what this mission and movement is about creating the new normal. And the new normal is of a higher vibrational resonance, where we are loving each other, where we're bringing very life-enhancing and planetarily enhancing technologies to the forefront. And these are the new normals. And that's...
I love that too, because think about it as well. And we talked about this earlier, is just all these broken systems that are around. Yeah. Our bodies, as it is right now, it's not made for the planet today in the 21st century. I mean, for me to walk in, and be sent home twice, being told I had a pinched nerve, and being sent home twice saying, yeah, I'd come back, you don't have a problem. And then go in and be told I have stage 4 breast cancer. It's like, what is going on out there? And when you start looking at this low level vibrational frequency of greed, where individuals are showing up and they're making decisions first and foremost based on money, not based on the human being, which is a human rights issue. I mean, every single one of us on this planet deserves to have access, to all the possibilities and what's available out there. And I look at like a Lauren Miller. I mean, she attributes the work that you did with her, Dr. Stephen. I mean, she literally is texting me as I have you both on. And she's saying to me, how do you know him? Oh my God, he is the person who helped me heal through her stage 4 breast cancer.
She was an incredible case. She was an incredible case. And her story is very inspirational to the path that I am on to this day. And you know what? I'm one man. And the conversation I was having with Tsunami was, I need help. Dude, it's a big planet. And Tsunami needs help. And now, you know what? We're also living in this house with his brother. And so his brother's helping. And you know who else is in the house? His son. And we're hiring his son. And you know who else is here? And you know what? He was saying his son's 13. And you know what? His friend also is looking for a job. He's hired. So we got a bunch of 13-year-olds and working here, and they're all 5D'ers. And we're creating a new reality because right now they can't go to school. So the best school that they have is they're learning how to stand on them. Dude, by the time this quarantine's over, these kids are going to be, maybe they might not be millionaires, but they're going to be set up they're going to be all set up.
Well, and that's what I think too, is that galactic conversation that we had earlier with, Luke Skywalker and Han Solo and what we're going to be looking at. That's literally what it is to really insulate and protect our bodies so that we can continue to habitate the planet. Because right now, we're all being forced to go inward so that we can go outward and have that connectivity. And the cool thing is that we've all had this experience now of connecting with one another, not just in our own backyard, but individuals everywhere. And I don't see that shifting. If anything, it's just continuing more and more about how we can put the pieces so that in our Earth suit, our Earth suit can navigate. Because I do believe, Jack Canfield made a comment on my show last week, and I've been working with him on Young Living and doing a whole bunch of cool stuff with him. But he said, I think I'm going to be living till 130. And you start looking at, these essential oils and the different things and what I've been doing with cannabis. And again, you can't go out there and tell people, there's a disclaimer. This is what happened for me. Sure. But when did it become okay for us not to share what's happening? All I want to do is sing it for the rooftop and say, have you met my friends? Tsunami, have you met Dr. Stephen? There are resources available to you on the planet.
Do you think we can get Jack Canfield to speak at Harmonizing Humanity?
Absolutely. Because you know why? He's a 5-deer.
Of course he is.
He's a 5-deer.
Dude, of course he is. And all the 5D'ers want to be a part of this. And, that's what we're on a short schedule. We're on a very short schedule to get this going. And I said to Tsunami, why don't we push? In fact, I'd love for you to Tsunami. I said, let's just push it back a couple of weeks. We need some more time. And what did you say?
That it needs to happen now because that's when the universe wants it to happen. And we're doing it on, it starts on the full moon, but it's also the eclipse.
What, solar eclipse, lunar eclipse? Give us some information.
Lunar eclipse of this year. Yeah. So,
and you know what? When he told me that, you know what I said? I'm in. That's the date. We're doing it. And so it's all systems go, and we're just manifesting. And we're going to get the biggest, baddest people. We already have how many? Do you want to tell us about the lineup of some?
Well, we have over 45 speakers already on the lineup of just all kinds of phenomenal individuals. And we're covering everything from having doctors talking about the future of energy medicine and all of that, like, Dr. Schwartz and many other doctors we have on, also talking about, really what if I could just take the whole of all that's going to be taught, the purpose is to find the convergence of science and metaphysics, because I believe that's where the future lies, is taking the ancient wisdom of our past and tying it together with what we've been learning in modern day society with modern day science and these technologies that are coming out nowadays, and blending the two. It's not neglecting one or the other and saying, oh, we just need to go back to ancient times. It's how can we take the wisdom from the ancient times and meld it with the future science and technologies and all that are coming out that benefit humanity, and how can we find this convergence place that is neutral, that's not religious based, it's not exactly even spirituality based on one spiritual system, but it's something that we can bring everyone together on one page. It's like, okay, it's okay if we all have certain differentiating beliefs, but there's certain factors that we all need to come together on here. There's certain things that are outside of religion and all of that, that is, hey, plain and simple, this is who we are as humanity. This is how our bodies operate. This is how big we are and infinite we are as beings, and how we all are interconnected, right?